You didn't crash it, you didn't flood it, you didn't do anything dramatic. You just drove it, charged it, parked it, same as always. And somewhere between month 1 and year 3, your EV's range quietly got shorter, and you never saw it coming. Here's what nobody tells you when you drive off the lot in a brand new electric vehicle. The battery doesn't die all at once. There's no warning light, no single moment where everything goes wrong. Modern EV batteries are engineered to be durable. Most of them are expected to outlast the car itself. Studies tracking thousands of real-world EVs show average degradation of only about 1.8% per year. That sounds reassuring, and it is, until you realize that number assumes reasonable habits. The problem is, most EV owners don't have unreasonable habits. They have invisible ones. Small things, daily things that feel completely harmless because nothing bad happens immediately. You plug in, you drive, you park, repeat, and the whole time, the battery is absorbing a little more stress than it needs to. Charge cycle by charge cycle, degree by degree, week by week. By the time you notice your range has dropped, the damage isn't from one bad decision. It's from hundreds of small ones stacked on top of each other. That's what this video is about. Not the dramatic mistakes, the quiet ones. The habits are so ordinary that most owners never question them. Let's go through each one. Constantly checking the battery and topping it off. This one catches people off guard because it comes from a good place. You pull into the driveway after a short errand, the battery is at 74%. You think, might as well top it off. You plug in. It charges to 80. You feel better. You do the same thing the next evening, and the one after that. What you've created is a pattern of unnecessary charging cycles on a battery that didn't need them. Here's what's actually happening inside the pack. Every time you charge, you're putting the lithium-ion cells through a cycle, even a partial one. The cells handle this well when they're given space to breathe. But when you're constantly pushing them back up to the top of their range, you're keeping the internal voltage elevated. And elevated voltage, sustained over time, slowly wears down the cathode material inside each cell. The fix is simpler than most people expect. Stop plugging in out of habit. If you're at 60 or 70% and your next day's drive won't come close to draining that, leave it. The battery doesn't need to be full tonight. It needs to last 5 years from now. Most EVs let you set a charge limit directly in the car's settings or the mobile app. Set it to 80% for daily use and leave it there. You don't have to think about it after that. The car handles the rest. Leave the car plugged in all the time. This one surprises most people. Plugging in and leaving the car connected indefinitely feels responsible. Feels safe. Like you're keeping everything topped up and ready. And for some battery chemistries, it's relatively harmless. But for the majority of EVs running nickel-based chemistry, this covers most of the market. Staying plugged in at or near a full charge for extended periods creates a low-level but constant source of battery stress. The issue isn't the connection itself, it's the combination of high state of charge time plus temperature. When a battery sits at 95 or 100% for hours, especially in a warm garage or parked outside in summer, the chemistry inside the cells keeps reacting. The electrolyte slowly degrades. The cathode experiences from what researchers call calendar aging, degradation that happens not from driving, but from simply existing at a high charge level. This is why manufacturers don't just recommend charging to 80%. They recommend timing your charge to finish close to when you actually leave, not at midnight, so the car sits full until 8 p.m. Not on Friday if you're not driving until Monday. The battery doesn't need to be full and waiting. It needs to be charged and moving, parking in heat without thinking about it. If there's one habit on this list that does the most damage per ignored instance, this is it. Heat is the single biggest long-term threat to lithium-ion battery health, not the cold, the heat. And the worst version of it isn't extreme heat alone. It's extreme heat combined with a high state of charge, which is exactly the situation you create when you charge to 100% on a summer morning and then leave the car sitting in a parking lot through the afternoon. The chemistry accelerates under those conditions. Reactions that would take months at a moderate temperature and moderate charge level happen in days when the battery is sitting full and hot. That's not speculation, it's thermal degradation, and it's well documented across every major lithium-ion battery study. The practical habits here are straightforward. Park in the shade whenever you have the option. Use a garage if you have access to one. On hot days, don't charge to 100% unless you're leaving immediately. If your car has a preconditioning feature, use it while the vehicle is still plugged in. Let it pull grid power to regulate the battery temperature instead of drawing from the pack itself. None of this requires sacrifice, it just requires awareness. Where you park and when you charge can have more impact on your battery's 5-year health than almost anything else on this list. And while we're here, if you find this kind of breakdown useful, subscribe. New EV content every week, no filler. Driving aggressively on a low battery. This one is less about charging and more about how you use the pack when it's already running low. Hard acceleration pulls a high current draw from the battery. That's fine when the pack is healthy and the charge level is in a comfortable range. The battery management system handles it. But when you're down at 10 or 15% and you're still hammering the accelerator, the dynamic changes. At a low state of charge, the battery's internal resistance increases. The cells are working harder to deliver the same output. And a hard launch on top of that, and you're creating a concentrated burst of electrical stress in cells that are already at the bottom of their comfortable operating range. Done once, it's a non-event. Done repeatedly, low battery, aggressive driving, repeat it compounds. The cells experience more heat, more resistance, and more wear per cycle than they would under the same driving conditions at a moderate charge level. The simple version, when your battery is below 15 or 20%, drive like it. Ease off the accelerator. Use regenerative braking to recover what you can. Let the pack manage the situation without adding unnecessary load on top of it. Ignore tire pressure and efficiency. This one gets left off most battery health lists. It shouldn't be. Tire pressure and battery wear aren't obviously connected, which is exactly why this habit slips through. But the relationship is direct. When your tires are underinflated, rolling resistance increases. The car has to work harder to maintain speed. The motor draws more current. The battery delivers more energy per mile than it should, and the increased energy output per mile adds up across thousands of miles, resulting in measurable additional strain on the pack. Continental's engineering data has shown that improper inflation alone can produce range and efficiency losses comparable to the benefit you gain from an entire tire upgrade. That's how significant the gap is. This isn't a complicated fix. Check tire pressure once a month. Match it to the spec on your door jamb sticker, not the max listed on the tire sidewall. The manufacturer's recommended figure. Keep it consistent through seasonal changes because pressure drops in colder temperatures. It takes 5 minutes and it protects both your range and your battery's long-term health simultaneously. Small maintenance, real impact. Letting the car sit for long periods at extreme charge levels. Most people think about what they do when they're driving. Fewer people think about what the battery experiences when the car is just sitting there. If you're leaving your EV parked for a week, 2 weeks, or longer, the state of charge it's sitting at matters more than almost any driving variable. Parking a battery for 100% for an extended period keeps internal voltage elevated the entire time. The chemistry doesn't pause because the car is off. Parking near zero is equally problematic in a different direction. The cells sit in a depleted state. Internal resistance climbs. And if background electronics drain the pack further, you can push into a deep discharge zone that causes its own category of damage. The research is consistent across sources on this. For long-term storage, the target range is 40 to 60%. Not fully charged, not empty, somewhere in the middle, where the cells sit at a moderate voltage, experience minimal stress, and hold their capacity without the degradation that comes from either extreme. If you're parking at an airport for a week, charge it to 60% before you go. If you're storing the car for a month or longer, get it down to around 50%. Enable any storage or power save mode your car supports, and check it periodically so background drain doesn't pull it too low. The battery that gets the longest life isn't the one that's always full. It's the one that spends the most time in the middle. What I'd probably focus on instead. Here's the honest takeaway from everything above. Battery degradation is real. It's gradual, and the habits that accelerate it are almost always invisible in the moment. You won't feel any damage from a single aggressive launch at low charge. You won't notice the battery wearing out from one summer afternoon parked. Fully charged in direct sun. Nothing dramatic happens after 1 week of ignoring tire pressure. But these things accumulate, And by the time you do notice, by the time the range is shorter than it used to be, by the time the battery feels smaller, the wear is already done. What I'd focus on if I wanted my battery to age as slowly as possible is not perfection. It's not obsessively unplugging it at exactly 80% or refusing to use a fast charger. That's not sustainable, and it makes ownership worse without proportional return. What actually moves the needle is consistency on a few things. Keep the daily charge limit set to 80% and don't fight it. Avoid parking fully charged in the heat whenever you have the option. Check your tire pressure regularly. It takes almost no time and protects more than most people realize. When you're storing the car for any significant period, land it near 50%. And when the battery is low, drive accordingly. None of this is complicated. None of it costs money. It's awareness over perfection, knowing what actually matters and building a few consistent habits around it. Your battery will lose some capacity over time regardless. That's chemistry. But how fast it happens and how much range you're holding onto at year 5 and year 8 depends heavily on what you do between now and then. The battery is clear on this. The habits are simple. The window to use them is right now, not after you notice the range is already gone. Drop a comment below. What's your current charging habit? And has anything on this list surprised you? And subscribe if you want more EV content that actually explains how these systems work. Not just what to do, but why it matters.